What's up, y'all? You're listening to the My Nation podcast. I'm Alex Miller, joined always by Robert Cessna. Cease, a Merry Christmas to you and the few people that watch this awesome podcast. And our Christmas present is they don't get to see your face today because we can't figure out how to work your camera.
Yeah, because Cease can't operate his camera. What a shocker. But yeah, belated Merry Christmas to you, to everybody listening in. Hopefully, they had a blessed Christmas.
Well, hey, you did make it to Las Vegas. I'm back in Texas, but Cease is on the scene. Cease, you lost all your money yet out there?
I can honestly say I arrived at the hotel at 8 o'clock. I guess it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, which would be 10 o'clock back home. And I've gone up and I've been to a press conference. I've been to a luncheon. I have not lost one penny.
All
Amazing.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
have you gotten sunglasses as cool as Albert Regis's yet?
man, first thing you saw him with those sunglasses, I go like, where did that come from? And he was one of the two. Him and Marcel talked to the media, and I couldn't take my eyes off those glasses. And then he talked about he just was mesmerized by the stratosphere, and his line was, "We've come so far as a society." And I'm thinking, like, just because of the stratosphere, I'm hoping that we're becoming more of a society, and the fact that he got uh, an award at the luncheon for his work for charitable events. If anybody can possibly say things like that and have fun, it'd be Albert Regis. So yeah, Albert was talk of the media about with those glasses. Definitely seemed like he was out of character, or maybe he was in character. Maybe we just haven't seen enough of him.
Hey, he read, if you haven't seen the Aggie football social media page, he read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" for the page the other day. And I gotta say, if there's a guy on the A&M team that we've talked to at least that I would pick to do voiceover for audiobooks, Albert Regis would probably be up there on my list of guys that would be good for that role.
He's got that very deep, great voice, and you want him. You should, if you go to his church, the way he sings, because you feel he'd be a pretty good singer.
Hey, he might hold it down on the bass row back there in the choir. So, well, hey, enough banter. There's plenty of distractions to go around for anyone in Vegas, but the reality is A&M's going to end their season tomorrow night at Allegiant Stadium, home of the Raiders, and playing the USC Southern Cal, not South Carolina. A&M's probably hoping South Carolina doesn't show up tomorrow, but they're playing Southern Cal, the Trojans. Cease. You previewed this game big time in the paper today. Just what's kind of the things that you're looking out for in this matchup on tomorrow night?
That's kind of interesting because then after going to the press conference today, there's just way too many unknowns because of the transfer portal, and we don't know the domino effect of players. It's going to be real key to see how A&M's defensive line does, because it really wasn't as good as it should have been this year, because it should have been the strength for every game, and it wasn't. So you wonder, yes, they're not putting names in there. Kennedy, Howell, Hicks, these are people that the general fan knows. So they're not putting them in with, the Three Stooges. They're putting them in with players, but still, there's a reason they weren't starting. So, it's strange. Their defensive line could play better than it has in some games just because these guys are excited. On the other hand, they could be out of position. And Southern Cal's got a pretty good running game. They got a pretty good quarterback. They have been able to score points. So to make a long answer, I don't know what the heck's going on, but I always read the tea leaves and listen to the players talk this luncheon. They had a lot of activities where it's team versus team. And I think a lot of times that can breed a little bit of competition. Sometimes you've even heard of teams flat out starting to hate each other at these events. But I think it sounds like they have an admiration society. So once again, is you want to beat up on your big brother or your newfound friend. So I think Vegas has created enough social events that I think A&M and Southern Cal are each going wanting to win because they've lost dance contests, they've lost whatever, and I think the competition is there.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this week that there's been a couple bowl games that have had some banter going on. I got to say though, I got to tune into the press conference today. It's a lot of high marks about Marcel Reed from USC head coach Lincoln Riley. And look, the guy's coached three Heisman Trophy winners at quarterback, so he might just be blowing smoke. But if he's not, he had a lot of good things to say about A&M's QB1.
Yeah, and when you stop and consider Marcel Reed coming out party a year ago, I think Marcel wants to have a huge game. You can say, well, Cessna, every player wants to have a huge game, but I think he's probably put in the work during these 15 practices and since the last game against Texas. I think he's put in the work to have a great game, but I did a little bit of research, but then listened to the local media. The flip side of this is a big game for USC's quarterback who's coming home. He was the focus today of the press conference by far. He got the most questions, and you can tell he's a little uncomfortable answering the questions at time about leaving your former team behind, which was UNLV. So you can tell he wants to be good. And last year at this time, he was, not known because what's funny is this is the second year in a row South Carolina, I mean, USC's kind of put a new quarterback out because last year Caleb Williams was on the sidelines while Miller Moss went in and did great, and now he's gone. He's in the transfer portal and gone. So this is definitely Mahavi's team, or how I pronounce his name there. So I think both these guys want to have great games. So we could see some points.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting on offense because, A&M's going to have probably a couple young receivers get some good chances in this game. I know Mike Elko said in the press conference today that no new opt-outs, but Moose Muhammad's not on the roster right now, and he kind of posted what looked like a farewell note on his social media the other day. And, beyond that, what was the update on A&M running back Ruben Owens, who we've kind of been wondering what his availability and limitedness might be in this game?
Yeah, you talk about a couple of things there, reading tea leaves. A couple of questions we felt had to be answered was, it's one of those things you get here and they're saying, oh, A&M's got more opt-outs. And of course, we all knew about Muhammad we didn't know how much he was going to play anyway. And then, as you mentioned, he came out on social media a few days ago. So evidently he's gone off to the NFL or the CFL or the UFL or, who knows. But the bottom line is, well, so we asked him, no new opt-outs, what I thought was pretty good because I don't think they've been hurt as bad on the starting lineup as other people have. But, USC's having a couple new linemen, a couple this and that. But getting back to your question, one of the questions we wanted to ask him about was Ruben Owens. You talked about it before we left, and you said make sure we ask about it. A couple of other, A&M media said the same thing because that's what people want to know. And we all read from the tea leaves of Mike Elko's answer when he said it's a 5-month recovery and it's only been like 4 months. We don't think we're going to see a lot of Ruben Owens because why would you go ahead and, possibly if he's playing the snaps he gets, they've got to feel he's 100% ready. And I don't know if he could do more than a handful because I think there would be worried about pulling a hamstring or doing this and that. So we've been wrong before, but the small group of 3 or 4 of us was talking. We don't think we're going to see a lot of Ruben Owens.
Well, hey, you started off our podcast by saying there's a lot of unknowns going into this game, but as you got to break the game down and try and figure out how these teams match up, strengths and weaknesses, what does A&M got to do to win this game tomorrow night?
Well, man, you look at what's bugged them all along. They got to stop the run because once again, is everybody that's run the ball successfully against A&M basically wins because that sets up the passing game. And you can say, Cessna, well, that's basic football. I go, okay, it's basic football. A lot of times A&M's flunked basic football. The defensive line is supposed to be their strong suit. And then you think Torrey and York, they should be able to hold teams under 125 yards rushing, good teams. but they haven't been able to do that. Even I don't think Auburn was a great team, and Auburn went way over that. So you got to stop the turn. You got to stop the running game, and you need some explosive plays. Man, A&M's had a tough time having explosive plays, and it didn't help him that Lavian Moss is gone. So whether that's with his legs or with his arms, A&M needs about. I went back and looked. You need always about 5, 6, 7 explosive plays of over 20 yards, and that's been a struggle for A&M. Because on the flip side, I think USC, when you look at their history, man, this team's lost 5 games by less than one score. They put some points on the board because they'll take some chances, and they have the skilled people to do it. So that means A&M can't have turnovers. They've had one or two turnovers that cost them all the time. So those would be my 3 things. And the factor we could talk forever, Alex. You can talk forever about, oh, we're going to be excited to play. We want it, but how excited are these teams? USC has lost a lot of players through transfer portal. There was even thought that Riley might go and replace Gus Malzahn. So, I mean, you talk about, and you can tell from some of the questions that were asked, I don't think there's really a lot of love right now. When you're 6-6, there's not a lot of love, but you can create love by winning. So, we all create love by winning.
Hey, speaking to that end, and we can end with this one. If A&M can win this game, how much of a difference would 9-4 feel versus 8-5?
I've been around this program, for 50 years. I've covered it sporadically at the end, and in the last 20 years, obviously covered a lot of closer. There's so much difference between 8-5 and 9-4 because 8-5 is like a kiss of death to this program. 8-5 and 7-6, you feel like you're kissing your sister, like you're doing nothing. And A&M's had so many of those 8-5s. Kevin Sumlin, bless his heart, he had a Heisman Trophy winner. There's a couple of great years there, but man, he made all Aggies hate 8-5 or anything close to it, like 7-6. And then Jimbo Fisher, unfortunately, didn't do much better. He went ahead and decided he was a second coming almost some of those years. So and then I think Elko touched a little bit of tea leaves when he said, like, hey, this game's going to be with us for a few months. And I think, he's trying to tell his team, hey, he was here 4 years as DC. You lose this game, you're going to hear about it. You're going to hear some snide comments like, oh, you guys started good, but you're 8-5. So I think it does matter. 9-4, and I understand. I wrote this when you and I go to, God willing, to Notre Dame next year. This game won't matter a hill of beans, all the transfers, da da. But to get to that point, everyone will be talking about 9-4 or 8-5 a lot of times. So do you want, it's like, do you want that wart removed from your nose or not? If you leave it on there, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, I definitely remember when Jimbo Fisher, at the end of his first season, they went to the Gator Bowl and just absolutely annihilated NC State. I mean, it was just a beatdown in capping off a 9-4 season. And, it just, to your point, Cease, it just felt different when they were able to beat NC State in that game versus, you lose the Texas Bowl last year and it's just like, ugh. 7-6, coach was fired. It's just two different feelings. Or even like the 2016 Texas Bowl, they went in 8-4. They lose to a Kansas State team, which, by the way, you talk about the social events. Kansas State looked like they really wanted to be there, and A&M did not. If you can pull that out of the memory bank, but yeah, I just thought I'd ask you about that because to me, 9-4 feels way different than 8-5.
Yeah, and that was a good 9-4. And I'm always bad with names as I get older, but even the 12th man scored a touchdown against NC State. Everybody got excited about that. Da da da.
Travion Williams broke the record, the
Yeah,
rushing record.
and as you're talking, I could think, man, if A&M could win a game like that and put Albert Regis in to get a 1 yard touchdown run, of course, Elko's not going to do something wild like that. But those kind of things people get jacked up about, and you win, and everybody feels good for a few weeks, and you pat each other on the back and say, oh, Marcel Reed's the guy, and Daniels rushed for 120 yards, and Riley Kennedy caused a fumble. I mean, it's bottom line is you'll have some if you win, But if they
Hey,
lose, everybody at Sunday's going to go, oh, same old Aggies started out 5-0 in the SEC, and here we are 8-5.
hey, maybe they do put Albert Regis in. He scores a touchdown, and then after the game, you say, "Hey, coach, we're gonna see that next year." And he says, "Hey, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." So
Or he wears those glasses, man, so sunglasses. He needs to market those. He can probably sell those. Maybe it's an NIL deal we don't know about yet.
maybe we need to get you an NIL deal with those glasses. Cease.
There you go. Maybe I can see straight.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the Miami Nation podcast. Be sure to follow Cease on social media. You gonna be tweeting tomorrow off the Aggies account, maybe?
I guess I'll have to tweet on the A&M account, and I think I still know how to do that. It's like one time when I first started that though, and it's a true story. Is I didn't know what a lot of the slang acronyms were, and boy, I need to find. I'm not going to use any of those because I got in some trouble with because my boss called me, goes, "Cease, do you know what that stands for?" I go, "Obviously not."
All right, maybe we'll just leave the tweeting for me at home, but be sure to check the
True
eagle.com for
story.
all of Cease's content from Las Vegas. We'll be back next week on the My Aggie Nation podcast.